Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Weeb Trash Podcast. We are a couple of pieces of Weeb Trash. I'm Cody.
I'm Dean.
Oh, there you go. Good timing. And we're just going to talk about some dumb anime bullshit. But this is episode 0, if you will. So we're going to talk about who we are, kind of what got us into anime. And then we'll cover a couple topics, talk about maybe some of the segments we might include in the future. And probably a lot of dumb shit in between, because that's just going to happen. But yeah, so Dean and I have been best friends for like most of our lives at this point. Like
2006, 2007, 7?
Somewhere in there, yeah. Like the better part of our lives at this point, at least.
For the most part.
Yeah, because we're old.
Comes and goes.
Yeah, we're old as fuck at this point, and I kind of disappear off the face of the planet sometimes.
I get to see his beautiful face now because we're doing webcams.
Yeah. No, I mean, we haven't actually had an audible conversation maybe since the pandemic started.
Probably, yeah, because I think we came down to visit before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Because it was like maybe right after. I don't remember.
Yeah, because y'all had come down with another friend of ours to get that piano, that keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been slightly after the pandemic had started. So I guess I'm crazy and I forget the things.
It might have been 2020. Maybe about 2 years.
Yeah, so I mean, still long fucking time, but
yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing a dumb anime podcast because we watch anime, if you didn't guess. Yeah, so as far as anime that kind of got us into anime, I think we'll have probably a different perspective here. Like between the two of us is I kind of stopped watching anime after a while. Like I had watched on Toonami back in the 90s, like a lot of people, and then I kind of stopped. And then I didn't pick back up until like almost to the end of high school.
Well, you were like a secret weeb. Like we were friends for a couple of years, and I didn't even know you watched anime.
Yeah, I mean,
or even liked Gundam.
Yeah, to be fair, some of that was timing too, because I hadn't really started watching stuff again up until we were probably seniors, I think, in high school, maybe like late junior year. Or I'm old and I don't remember.
Man, like all the times that we hung out in like middle school, like you lived right behind me. I would jump the fence and go hang out at your house.
Yeah,
and we just like played video games. We never even talked about it. I didn't even know you liked anime.
Which is funny because like I'm fucking awful at video games. I don't know why the fuck I was playing video games.
I come over to your house and like play GTA or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, GTA is kind of hard to be bad at, so you know, I had something going for me there. But as far as like the thing that got me back in, because like I watched Gundam as a kid, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, kind of all the Toonami stuff. But the thing that had really got me back in was a combination of Gundam, which is a weird way I don't really count because Gundam kind of just spurred into more Gundam. So I didn't really actually watch anything else. But Code Geass. Was it a
specific Gundam?
Gundam Seed and Seed Destiny, I think, were not super new at the time, but had been out long enough that they had English dubs. Whereas Gundam 00, which would have been airing around that time, I don't think had either had one or I was unaware of it at the time. But I think that was probably what I carried over into next. But Code Geass was the one that got me into be like, oh, I'm going to watch some other anime because that exists. And yeah, then it kind of has gone up and down. I've watched stuff on and off. Got really into it for a few years. Kind of didn't have as much time at a certain point, and then I stopped watching it, but I'm kind of in a place now where I can kind of watch it somewhat secretly sometimes at work, and you know, just kind of sometimes throw it on the background when we'll talk about what I've got on in the background most of the time in a minute. But what was your first anime that you were like, oh, I'm gonna like watch other things? Like, what got you in that door?
It was, I mean, it's all over the walls. You know, it's that too. Like Dragon Ball was huge. Like it wasn't the first thing. It probably wasn't the first thing that I saw. Like, you know, because we just, you know, we all grew up watching cartoons. Like Pokemon. Like I watched Pokemon like constantly, and like every time we came on the TV, you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna watch Pokemon. or like we even had like Pokemon VHS tapes. Yeah. So like now I know that that's anime. Like it's not just cartoons because it came from Japan. But it was either Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, which is great. Still to this day. Like Dragon Ball, Yu Yu. I watched a little bit of Sailor Moon. I just remember always wanting to see Tuxedo Mask instead of the actual Sailor.
Hell yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, Tuxedo Mask is here.
Yeah. Fuck waifus. Get that husbando.
I remember watching Cardcaptor Sakura because I thought it was really cool with like the summons and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. I remember watching that. Yeah, but yeah, mostly Dragon Ball, fighting Shonen. Bleach when it came around. Naruto, that was like 2005 when that started here. So it was about middle school. And it was all like most things. At that time, it wasn't as socially acceptable as it is now. So it's like, oh yeah, I watch this at home, but I don't talk about it at school. Like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna be Naruto running around the
I mean, we had those kids in
whatever.
School. Like, there was maybe one or two that did that, and you're like,
and you look at them and you're like, what a loser.
Yeah,
like in your mind, you're like, yeah,
damn it, I wish I did that.
So it's like secret weebs.
Yeah,
but like, yeah, mostly anything that was flashy caught my attention. My ADD brain.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man, that's awesome.
Big lasers. What? Oh, I like that.
Definitely Gundam Wing. I remember watching Gundam Wing. If it was on Toonami, I would watch it. Cowboy Bebop. Basically the Toonami Prime block. And it was there's like things that you go back and watch. Like I remember the first time I went back to watch Cowboy Bebop, I was like, oh, I enjoy it way more now than I did back then. Because I guess I was too young when I started watching it. I was like, oh, this is like, you get more things. Like, it's like when you go back and revisit a movie and you're like, oh, like there's all these like jokes and references that were for adults, even if it's a kid's movie. And so you have a different appreciation for it as you get older.
Yeah.
So one of those things was nice. Again, I didn't watch Seed. I watched Seed later on. I watched Gundam Wing. And then I remember watching 00.
Yeah, that, like, I think that also might be why I didn't talk about Gundam. It's like, Naruto and Bleach and One Piece, like, when they were big, you would see the people and you're kind of like, damn, bro, that's kind of cringe. Why are you doing hand signs in class? But, like, there's nothing for Gundam that you could do that with, and it was so niche that I was like, no one fucking knows what Gundam is.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
got big robots in the sky.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, is that Transformers? And you're like, yeah, that's Transformers. I don't want to explain.
Oh man, Transformers Armada. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, it's
big cartoons, but yeah.
It's like, do you remember when Hiro Yui piloted Optimus Prime? It was awesome. It's the most heroic thing ever.
Most heroic.
Yeah. But yeah, so like Dean's been a lot more consistent in his anime viewership over the years.
Yeah.
And has prompted me to get into some things I probably wouldn't have normally, like Black Clover, which is one that's like definitely up there for me in terms of things I've enjoyed. In Naruto, fucking recently.
Just now starting to watch it.
Yeah, I'm like 20 years late on this, but whatever. I'm not gonna lie. I think as an adult and like kind of being able to talk about it more, it has been a little bit hard to be like, I kind of learned some of the hand signs. And I'm like, God damn it, am I going to be that cringe? Am I going to do it? But no, probably because hand-eye coordination's hard.
Yeah, no, it's bad. My left hand does not work.
Yeah, I was like, oh, fuck, okay, hold on, do I get So yeah, that's actually brings us to one of the first segments we'll, at least for a little bit, probably have of my notes on Naruto, because
You taking notes?
Not like, well, maybe some,
you got
a little
some
bit.
middle notes?
Yeah. I might, as I go through it, I might have to actually take some notes because I'm going to start forgetting things.
Oh, don't worry. If you're watching it all the way through, there's plenty of flashback.
Oh, great. Awesome. I've come to a couple of those episodes and I'm like, I don't want to skip it in case there's something in it, but I want to skip it.
you're gonna have a 2-minute intro,
and then like
and then you're
3 minutes
you're gonna
of
have
fucking...
you're gonna have like 15-minute flashback of stuff that happened the last 10 episodes, and you're gonna have 5 minutes of actual story progression, and then it's over with.
It's fucking ridiculous. Like, it's already
That's
happening.
how they made 700 episodes.
Yeah, and I'm like, bro, like, because that was one thing I thought that I've noticed is like, I'm at 35 now, so they're kind of like in the middle of, or maybe getting towards the end of the Chunin exams.
Beginning exams.
Yeah.
I think.
And they're like, it's this weird thing of Black Clover wasn't, I feel, paced as well. Oddly enough, because like when you watched 40 episodes, it kind of felt like it. But I don't feel that I'm 35 episodes in to Naruto. I feel like I'm like 24. Like I feel like a proper 12 episode arc has happened. And
I remember right, it starts with like him. It's kind of like you only get like one episode of introduction, and then it like already kicks off.
Yeah, I mean, they go on the like bridge builder situation like 3-ish, 4-ish episodes in, I think. Maybe later, I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm actually quite enjoying it. I did the whole believe it thing. I understand why that was a meme. Like, God damn it, Naruto, stop saying it. But
yeah, it eventually goes away.
Yeah, and I think that's something, because I was thinking about this as I was watching it. I was like, what is our big three in relation to like One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach in terms of like, well, I mean, One Piece is still One Piece because it's still going. Yeah, it hasn't stopped.
It passed 1,000 episodes now.
But I was like, is Black Butler kind of Naruto because it keeps getting better? But then I was like, maybe
Clover?
Yeah, but then I was like, maybe it's Bleach because, I mean,
Bleach just came back.
Yeah, so Bleach is going to take its spot back.
They're going to come back with a new season.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of people that were trying to figure out like what would be like current like big three, because there's a lot of talk about My Hero being in there.
Yeah,
because it's synonymous. They're talking about Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer has only got one. It's in the second season, but like it only got one season. And like, yeah, it's great visually, but like, there's a lot of people that'll tell you the story in it is like it's not one of a kind. It's not a story that's never been done before.
Yeah, it feels like
it's really good. It's got great production quality. It's a good show, but it's not like it's not the best thing ever made.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that it is really unique in its visual styling and everything. Like the attacks are like the fight scenes are definitely up there in terms of like, yeah, it's not only crisp and clean, it has this own unique flow to it, and it has, of course, like all the breathing styles and such, but it almost feels like we're at a point where there's really not a big three, because there's one spot.
Too much. It's exactly, a very saturated. It's a very saturated market, so to speak.
Yeah, and it feels like
especially during the pandemic, they're just making everything that was a light novel. They're getting an animated adaptation for it. Like, oh, boom, make it 12 episodes. See where it goes.
And it's this thing that like we almost just have seasonal shonen fight anime at this point, but not in the same way. Because like Naruto, and of course I didn't watch it airing, so I don't know, but my perception was it was kind of always on. Like there was always a season running until like the time skip, and kind of the same thing with Bleach and One Piece.
That's why there's like 4 whole seasons of filler in Naruto, was because it was always on. Because when they started dubbing it, they were dubbing it and they were getting caught up to the manga, and they didn't want to just go on hiatus, so they just started making their own stories. Which some of the stuff in there is okay, but like, it's like if you read the manga, like none of it's in there.
Yeah, and I think that's something that after a certain point, and I don't know when it happened, anime studios kind of were just like, we'll wait for the manga, we're going to stop. So you have like Jujutsu Kaisen comes out, blows things up, and then it's gone for a while.
Yeah.
And it did get me to read the manga, so I'm not gonna lie, it kind of worked. But
yeah, I'm probably gonna have to end up starting to read it.
Yeah,
it's because I don't want to wait.
Yeah, when people are like the Shibuya arc's really good, it's like it is. And I read it alongside Chainsaw Man, and that was a huge mistake because there are a lot of similarities, but they both hit a very similar vibe at that point. And I read like both the Shibuya arc and kind of when Chainsaw Man hits this kind of very similar vibe. It happened at the same time for me, so I perceive it to have happened at the same time for some reason in the storytelling. But I mean, it feels about right in terms of like content before it. And it just like both hit, and it's just I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't want to give the vibe away. But it hits, and it's like, okay, I don't know, I don't need this much of this in my life. So it was kind of like this weird situation with. But then like Demon Slayer comes out for a season,
right.
Then it's gone. Then My Hero comes back for a season, then it's gone. Then the next thing, and so on.
Attack on Titan splitting up a season into 3 parts.
Yeah, so it'll kind of be this weird, like, nothing's constantly going anymore.
Yeah.
Which I think it's good. I mean, it's for the best.
Yeah. Because, that's like the big, if you have a long running show, the one thing that most people complain about is filler.
Yeah.
And like, by no means am I saying Demon Slayer is bad. I'm not, it's really good. It takes what it has and has the story that it's trying to come across, and it takes it and does it really well. It's not a new story. Like, when you look at everything, like it's
kind of like My Hero when it came out. Everyone got super hyped for it, and then it went on almost constantly until like 3 seasons in, and people were like, okay, we're kind of like, we hit the point, we're good, we can just stop.
People were getting complacent. They're like, okay, it's okay. And but like, so hopefully, like, I haven't read any Demon Slayer, so I've just been waiting to watch it, because I like it, but it's not one that I need to consume.
Yeah,
and I know
it's good, but
if you go on the internet and say Demon Slayer isn't the best thing ever, you get roasted for it.
Yeah, there's people that like it's very into, like, it's gonna be weird that I can even like say this term. It's very normie. Like, it's
it
what
took the
people
ball
get
and
into.
It ran with it, and it's got a huge following, which I can appreciate because it's good. I watched it, like, I watched it twice.
It's also like a weird thing of the way, and I've seen some people complain about this, that the Mugen Train arc, which is effectively the movie with a couple of things added, because it's like 8-ish episodes, is kind of its own season, which is weird. And then the Entertainment District arc, which had some space between them, if I remember correctly, is also like 8 to 9 episodes. So it's like, okay, well, it's a little shorter, which feels weird if you're broadcasting this on TV. Maybe they run it longer as like a whole 16 episode season or something. But then they're doing these arcs in like a setting based situation, because the next one's like Swordmaker Village or Swordsmith Village. So it's like, okay, is that going to be 8 episodes? Because it almost feels like, because I've been trying to keep up to date on the dub, because it's one thing that the time I do have to watch things, I typically, unless I'm really into it, don't want to read a sub. Spy X Family is that way for me right now. I'm reading the subs, but once the dub comes out, I might just kind of wait for it to catch up.
Yeah, I started reading it this morning. So I started reading Spy Family this morning, and I was like, oh yeah, Cody was talking about this. I've seen, people talk about it, posted pictures of it, because I think there's 2 episodes, I think now, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't want to watch it. Like, I'm busy doing something. And I was like, I'm not gonna watch it. But I woke up early this morning. I was just laying on the couch. I was like, oh, I've got time to kill. I don't have anything to do. So I just, started reading, and I was like, oh my God, this is really good.
Yeah. And it's something that, because after I watched the first 2 episodes, because I think I waited a week, and I was like, oh cool, well the second one's out, I'll watch both. I went and read a bunch more of the manga, because I think I had gotten like 10 or so chapters, 15 chapters in or something. And I was like, okay, we'll just blitz through a lot of this. And I did, and it still gets good. It has those moments that I think a lot of people would, in other shows, consider filler. But it makes sense for what it is. It's not like Naruto fucking off to do ramen shit or something. I don't know. But it's like, Bond. Oh, I guess you haven't seen Bond. Okay. So you haven't seen Bond yet. It's like Anya going off and doing her own adventure type situation or something, and It's kind of the comical hijinksy type vibe that the whole manga has. They play into it, so it works. But it like reading like a bunch of chapters back to back. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of hard to binge because you're like, oh, they're doing this. Okay, what? I don't really care. But I think trying to slow it down and watch the anime, I think, is going to help. Kind of because I know enough of what's going to happen. I could probably peel my eyes away, but I want to wait for the dub because I'm just a lazy bitch and I don't want to like read subtitles.
Yeah, I got to the point where they just now have the family like together.
Okay.
And I was like, oh man, this is pretty good. It's different enough for it to catch my attention. Because they're like, oh, it's kind of a slice of life, but there's like supernatural elements into it, which I didn't expect when I was reading it. I was like, oh, he's a spy. I was like, okay, cool. So this could be like spy and like assassin and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, I can read minds. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
It's super cool. And like once you get to the dog, you'll be like, oh, okay. But I mean, yeah, it does this thing. It exists in a really interesting world, and the characters are interesting. Like it like what? I need to think of a better term for this, but it's kind of like Man in the High Castle in the way, but in reverse of Man in the High Castle's first season. The world is very interesting, but the characters I couldn't care less about. And I've seen people be like, "You're fucking stupid. Why do you say that the characters good?" I'm like, no, the characters suck. They get better, but they're fucking awful in the first season. But you start off with very interesting characters in a very interesting world. So you're like, I want them to explore this world so I get to know more about it, but I'm interested to see how they handle this world. It's very like Cold War spy-esque vibes, East versus West type thing. And you don't really know who's supposed to be the good or the bad guy. Because like, you have the perspective of both. You haven't met Yor's brother yet, have you?
I have not.
Okay. It's a very minor spoiler because I don't think it gets played into the introduction of him. But he's secret police, so he's kind of like the KGB equivalent, I guess. But you see from his perspective a lot of like what they perceive Twilight's country to be, in how they're both very shady and shitty, kind of like the East versus the West in real life. They both did a bunch of dirt, but you know, you have people on both sides trying to be like, hey, this is the best. So it's really interesting. I'm glad they're getting an anime. I think this is probably gonna be... This is what filled the space of My Dress Up Darling for me in a very weird way. Because My Dress Up Darling was the same way in the last season, because I was watching it subbed, because I was like, this is really good. This is... Well, it has its very risque moments. Like, it's very wholesome most of the time.
Right.
And it was just like pure dopamine. You're like, hell yeah. Yeah, Gojo, sew that fucking piece of cloth. That's, yeah, you get it. And when the dub started, I was like, oh, cool, yeah. So I watched it both in sub and dub because I was like, oh, yeah, I just enjoy this. And I feel like Spy Family is going to do the same way because it's usually quite, I mean, it's pretty much all wholesome. Like, I don't think I've seen a scene where it's like, oh.
Right, yeah. It's all been pretty wholesome. I mean, the beginning, he just like straight up kills a guy.
Yeah, like there are instances, I think, and that's one thing I will say in the manga, you don't get a lot of Yor, which is really sad because I think she's a really funny character. But yeah, when she goes out on a job, you see it. Like, she's just straight killing dudes left and right. And you're like, aha. Oh. Right.
It's the slice of life I want.
Yeah, give me this assassin slice of life that's better than most other assassin slice of life, because that's weird that's kind of like a weird subgenre now.
Yeah, they both have secret lives that nobody knows about and they don't know about, and they're pretending to be a family.
Yeah.
But for each for their own reasons that the other doesn't know about. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's real good. So, and this is kind of, I guess, because we've already kind of been talking about it. What have you been watching watching other than Spy X Family or Spy Family, whatever?
The last thing I watched was caught up on Attack on Titan. Because I'm probably gonna have to start reading it because I think they said the other half of the final season or the third part of the final season. I don't know what they're doing, but I think the rest of it is supposed to come out next year, like a 23 release. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, I think I'll just read it instead of waiting, because there can't be, I don't think there's a ton of it left. And I don't know if the manga's done. I think it is. I haven't put that much. I think I've only, the last time I read it, when I was like, oh, I'm going to go back. I think it was after season 2 came out. I was like, oh, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read. So I started reading it from the beginning. And I basically read through season 1 and then I fell off and stopped reading it. But I think I'm going to pick up where it left off. Excuse me. Before that, I caught up on Black Clover. So it's like what, episode 170 or something like that?
I think so. It's around there, yeah.
And that one I might also pick up. I might just pick up from there. I probably won't start from the beginning.
Yeah,
I might start reading it. Yeah, yeah, I might start reading it from there, and continue on. Because they announced this week, that when it comes back, it's going to be the final arc. Because it's going on a hiatus, and so when Black Clover comes back, it's going to be the final arc. So it's winding down to being done.
Yeah.
So I might just read it until then. I don't know.
Yeah, because it, like, since it's got to catch up, and the writer is on hiatus, I think, as well, for the manga. Like, they're waiting to start wind down to the last arc. It's gonna be a while. Like, they don't have a tentative date for next season yet.
Oh yeah.
So it'll at best be 2023, like late, but probably maybe later. So yeah, at this point I kind of just want to read the manga, but I also kind of like,
I got so many questions.
Yeah, like there's
and one of my friends is like, I have the answers, because I read them, and I was like, well then I'll just read them. Yeah,
like they're there, and it's the thing that, like, I don't know that I would start from the beginning, because I tried and I only got a couple chapters in, and I'm like, I remember why, like, watching the first parts of Black Clover was kind of hard, because it's slow burn. Yeah, like
unless you're immediately like into the world that they just built, and like the world building and lore, which is really good. You know, it's I mean, it's magic, it's cool. You know, they have grimoires and stuff, but like, and there's orphans, because you know everyone loves orphans. It's a slow burn until, you know, stuff starts kicking off. Because it's basically until he gets his grimoire is when stuff happens.
Yeah, so you have a couple episodes, and it is kind of world buildy, and then once he gets it, you know, he's kind of got to train with it. Then you go through like the exam and stuff. And I think it's kind of a weird full circle thing to Naruto. I see kind of a similar vibe of, like, Naruto's real fucking annoying at first.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Asta's super fucking annoying too.
Oh, he's screaming.
But like, you get through maybe the first part, like maybe first, because I don't remember how their seasons are oriented, but like you get, once he's in the Black Bulls and goes on his first couple of missions and stuff, you're like, okay, Asta's pretty bearable now. He does his weird screams, but people are calling him out on it, and he doesn't do it as much. And Naruto eventually,
all the time.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, like when he does, like, it goes from very inopportune screaming to very, like, it makes sense. Like, he's trying to fight someone or something, versus I'm just gonna scream for other reasons. Like, he feels like he's part of the Black Bulls, and he gets to kind of do his own thing, and you get kind of a similar vibe once you get to a certain point in Naruto, which I think I'm hitting in the Chunin exam, because like he's gotten to a point several times already where he's like, oh, I'm gonna just fucking do this myself, fuck everyone else. And you're like, oh cool, Naruto's actually marginally cool in this instance. But yeah, so I also have caught up on Black Clover, very good. Which is why I'm watching Naruto, because I needed something to fill the Black Clover void. So I mean, if you have
it's gonna be great that, like, as this goes on, you're gonna have a lot of references to Naruto because you're just now watching it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, did you see Itachi? And everyone's like,
yeah, like 15 years ago I did.
Yeah. So, like, Like, I'm just that dude that's like, oh my god, this is so cool. And everyone's like, bro, where the fuck have you been?
Well, I think it was last year. We rewatched it. So we rewatched all of Naruto last year, and then I think we're into like 3/4 into Shippuden. So it's like we're in the 300s or 400s of Shippuden. I think we're in the late 300s of Shippuden, and then yeah, we just kind of lose interest. We try and watch 700 episodes.
Yeah.
So like we trailed off and then we stopped watching it. But yeah, like so like we rewatched. So like I was rewatching it. I was like, man, as I was rewatching it last year, it was kind of the same thing. It's like, man, like early Naruto is pretty annoying, and Sakura's pretty annoying, and Sasuke's pretty annoying with him just brooding and being angsty all the time. It's like, oh my god, get over yourself.
It is kind of funny because like out of the big three from that era, Naruto's the one that I've like by osmosis known the most about, so I could probably like fake my way through conversations. But I also know the memes, so like by the time like Sakura has a chance to do anything, you're like, you're fucking useless, Sakura. You're not gonna do anything. And the show does it because like in the first like the written part of the Chunin exam, she's like, oh yeah, I'm smart, I can do this, and everyone else is like, I'm a fucking idiot. And then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, this didn't fucking matter. And it's like, fucking get jobbed, Sakura. Like, the one thing you're good at, you just fucking got on. And just, I did imagine she does stuff later on, but, like, I love that the show is just like, you don't get to do anything, ever.
For her to be a major, like, secondary character, they give her the least amount of character development, or not the least, the slowest amount of character development, because she doesn't really grow. She has a few moments in the original series where it's like, oh, okay, you kind of learn, get humbled about certain things, but it's like it's not until Shippuden, when she gets a lot of training down, where it's like, oh, okay, now. That's not to say, oh, like now you're useful, but like now you actually have like a personality that's not just, oh, like Sasuke is just in love with Sasuke, and that's the only thing that her personality is.
Yeah, that's her single personality trait.
It's like, oh, I like Sasuke, notice me, senpai, and I hate Ino, and that's it.
Yeah, that's the vibe.
But they're friends, but they hate each other. I don't know. I'm not a girl. I don't know anything.
Yeah, it's this weird rivalry thing for Sasuke.
Love triangle.
Yeah, and then knowing like what's happening just vaguely with Boruto, and it's like, oh well, I know they get married, so like all that tension's kind of gone.
Yeah.
But you get to see it because you get to see Sasuke go on his angsty ass journey. So
we don't have to talk about Boruto.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
We don't have it. Just I'm okay because it's you spend like all those years with all these characters, and you're like, okay, it's gonna be time jump. Like, everyone's older, and you're like, cool, I can't wait to see what they're doing. And it's just like 50 episodes of their kids, and you're like, I don't care about these people. I don't know these people.
Yeah.
Like I'm not 13 again, knowing, like, watching, like, oh man, that's cool. It's more like, oh, that's cool, but like, what's your mom doing? What's your dad doing? Like, what are they doing? What they do with their life? I want to know.
Yeah.
I just smacked my microphone. I want to know. Like, I don't want to know what the fuck you're doing. I don't want to see another tuning exam.
Yeah, like, I get, because this happens in Gundam a lot, where like people are like, no, I want to see this thing, and it's the new thing is more of trying to get new people into it, and then all the old people are like, well, fuck this thing, this is stupid. And it's like, yeah, it's the same with Boruto. Like, kids are gonna get into it, but it's like, as a previous fan, you want to see, oh, how did Naruto really get to become Hokage? How did he do all of these things? What did Sasuke do? Yada 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 yada.
I don't think that they made it. I think they wanted to make another Naruto, like an original series.
Yeah.
So I think they wanted new fans. It wasn't like it was for like the older, like the generation that grew up with it. It's like, yeah, I know a lot of people are interested. Like, oh, I want to know what their kids do. Who had what, who did what. but like it's such a minimal aspect of the show, at least in like the first like 50, 60 episodes. Like I know when you make a new show, you have to have characters or episodes and stories focused on those characters to build those characters, and to build and to world build. But like for something that's already established, a lot of just me personally is like I don't care.
Yeah,
I'll watch it. I've already watched it. I'm like in the hundreds or whatever.
Yeah, and Gundam, I think, does this well in an aspect of, and I assume Naruto's probably popular enough in terms of like an IP that they could have gotten away with this. Of, we'll have this new show that maybe is a gamble, or maybe is like Seed is coming out to try to get new fans, try to get a new generation into Gundam, but Bandai will also, or Sunrise will have an OVA series for older fans going. And had Boruto, like 25 episodes in, had a launch of an entirely separate, not like taking over Boruto, but a separate OVA series of like 8 to 12 episodes of the in-between years of like what was everyone
that's what
doing.
I want to see.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to balance it, but you don't ever see really most anyone do that.
The last episode of Shippuden ends, and then if you watch the last episode of Shippuden, they don't even make a movie, because Naruto, the last movie, is like, I think it's before the last arc. I could be wrong. I think it's before the last arc of Shippuden.
Yeah.
Or it's before the war. I can't remember. But the last movie they have isn't even at the end of the series. So the last episode of Shippuden that you watch, and then the first episode of Boruto is like 13 years apart. And they don't really explain a whole lot what happens in those 13 years. It's like, I kind of want to know what happens in those 13 years. Like, I'm more interested in what happens in that than I am what's happening now.
Yeah, and it's just, you don't see a lot of people do that, and I think that's kind of a shame. But
sequels are hard.
Yeah, it's hard to pull off, and I think
it's hard to please people with them. Look at Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's just that thing of like, you kind of have to.
Hell, look at Dragon Ball. Like,
yeah, Super. Yeah,
like Super came out, and I'm like, oh, I was so excited. I don't think Dragon Ball is the best thing in the world, but it's just, it's nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it was the first thing that I latched onto, and I was like, oh, this is cool. It's just, dumb fighting, and it's got some character development in it. By far, Dragon Ball Z is not the best anime. It's hugely popular, and I mean, it looks cool.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we're gonna, because I think Boo, at least in America, the Boo Saga Z ended. Oh man, I don't even know.
Yeah, long time
10
ago.
years ago? 10 years ago? Maybe longer than that?
Yeah.
Probably. I think I was in high school when it was over. Or at least whenever I was able to watch the end of it. Because I think I had to wait for it to be on Toonami or Adult Swim or whatever was going on.
Yeah, that'd be pre-streaming, so you had to see it on TV.
So I was still in high school whenever it ended. Let's see if I can look that up real quick. But when Super came out, I was so excited because it came out like 2016. I think 2016 it came out.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And so it ended in 96 in Japan. It was they're talking about Kai, because then they came back and did Kai.
Yeah, so that kind of throws an extra layer of complication.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't quick Google it.
But generally like high school.
A long time ago,
like
it ended.
2008 to 2011, somewhere in there.
And then I think they started Kai in like 2012, 2011, something like that. Maybe, I don't remember. In the 2010s, they did Kai, and Dragon Ball Kai is kind of like what Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood did for Full Metal Alchemist. Mm-hmm. It obviously it was updated, because Dragon Ball was drawn in the 90s, or Dragon Ball Z was drawn in the 90s and animated in the 90s. And with Kai, it was fresh animation, redubbing, of a lot of stuff, changing a couple of voice actors, and it strictly followed the manga. that Dragon Ball Z had. And so if I remember right, 251 episodes for Dragon Ball Z, and I think combined, because Dragon Ball Kai split up from the Sand Saga to the Cell Saga, and then they came out with Dragon Ball Kai Final Chapters, which was the Buu Saga. And I think the Buu Saga was like 70 episodes, and I think Dragon Ball Kai ran like 90 episodes or something like that. So they went from Dragon Ball Z being 251 to like 160 something episodes or 170 episodes. So they cut like almost 100 episodes out of just them staring at each other, and the Namek fight lasting 17 episodes.
Yeah. they cut that down because they're like,
so it's much more streamlined, where it's like 5 minutes, and it's like, damn, that takes 20 episodes. Yeah, it's big long running gag in the Dragon Ball, and their fights taking forever.
Yeah, it like I was thinking about this, like while you're talking, I was trying to think of like, what is something else that's not Gundam related that like I've had the similar experience with. Because Gundam's usually pretty disjointed, so it's not like they come out with a new series and it's tied to something older.
Well, you've got 2 universes.
Yeah, you've got a shitload of universes. Like
you've got the UC and the AC.
Yeah, you've got the After Colony for Wing. You've got the After War for X, the Future Century for G Gundam, Correct Century for Tornado. Like pretty much every new show is its own like universe, basically.
Yeah.
And there's this weird like I've been working like on and off like for like a year and a half at this point to try to make a singular connected Gundam timeline, because it's not supposed to like be a thing.
Yeah, singular timeline.
Yeah, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna try to like justify some stupid bullshit.
Grasp at straws.
Yeah, and that's basically what it has.
Make it work.
Yeah, and I've had to change things because like they aren't meant to be that way, but there are certain events that happen that change geography in Gundam, so you're like, well, shit, now this can't go here, so it has to go over here, but that doesn't make any sense, this whole thing. But
yeah, like G Gundam's geography.
Yeah, G Gundam space colonies are fucking stupid. Like, I knew when I was making that list, I was like, there's no fucking way I can justify this. This is just gonna be a thing that I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter. But Code Geass actually is very similar, because they had, I think 2018, maybe 2019. Yeah, it's probably 2019, maybe. The like new Code Geass movie. They had done the recap movies that set a kind of a new canon for this new sequel movie, and a bunch of people were excited, and I was, but I didn't like jump on to watch it because I was like, I was really satisfied with how it ended, and that's kind of the whole point of Code Geass. Not whole point, but like the big draw of Code Geass is how season 2 ends. Is like there's a reason why people kind of usually will count that in like their top 5 anime endings, because it provides a sense of closure that most things don't. And to come back to it and be like, hey, we know you really liked this thing, but we're going to change the thing that you kind of liked about it. And yeah, the movie's fine. Like, I've watched it now, but it's not as good as sequels hard, right? And
yeah.
Even with like Code Geass' second season, sequels are hard, and it's not as good as the first, but it ends on such a high note that it's like, I can see this as one singular thing versus a really good first season and a pretty mid second season with a really good ending. But yeah, I mean, it's this thing that it's almost better to do something different like Gundam does and just say, right, fuck it. This is the same universe or the same concept that you're familiar with, but here's something else. It's hard to do that with other universes though, because like
instead of trying to hold on to like a continuity,
yeah, or
anything like that. Yeah, because like I just remember I never finished my thought like on Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Because just it's actually in C itself. Like originally, the Cell Saga was supposed to be the end of it. Like, because like they weren't gonna make the Buu Saga, and then they did, and then a lot of people don't like half of the Buu Saga.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not as good as it's not as good as the Cell Saga. It's not as good as the ending of as all that. And then 10-15 years later they come out with Super, and people are excited and skeptical. And they came out with the movie first. Came out with Battle of the Gods, and you watch that, and you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. And they're like, some people are like, it's all right. And then they do the show, and then basically the first 40 episodes is kind of like how they did the Mugen Train arc. It's a retelling of the movie with some additional stuff that's in there that wasn't in the movie. And they did that with Battle of the Gods and Resurrection of F, because they had two super movies before making a show about it. So a good chunk of the show is just the movie being retold in the anime, and a lot of people are like, oh my god. And it's like almost a year of it, because it was weekly releases, and people were just like, oh, they dropped the ball. And it's like, they had things planned, so you kind of had to like wait and see. And some of the animation wasn't the best in the beginning, because there's a lot of stills, especially like in the first 5 episodes of Super. It's like, man, like they really dropped the ball with the way it looks.
Yeah.
And I mean, it eventually picked up, and it was good. But I mean, yeah, I'll continue to watch more because I'm trash. we trash. I'll watch every isekai that comes out.
Yeah, no, that's like, I will die on the hill that High School DxD is really good, not just because it's an ecchi, but because like it has a good lore.
Like, listen, there's good lore. The fight scenes are really good. It just happens to be a lot of tits. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will fully acknowledge, that's what the main point of that show is just, a bunch of TNA, but like, because I've thought about it in like terms of Rosario plus vampires, a very similar thing.
That's another one. It's pretty good, but there's a lot of fan service.
It walked kind of the path. Yeah, it walked so that High School DxD could run. And
it's like you walk in when you're watching Rosario Vampire, and you're like, oh, it's another panty shot.
Yeah, and
what else is new?
You walk in on High School DxD, and it's like, oh, there's tits, great.
There's nipples out.
But then you're like, oh, that's a cool dragon fight. What's going on there? Why is there a dragon? Oh, what? There's more tits again. But dragons, though, where are those dragons?
Fight is awesome.
Yeah, and it's gotten to the point where, because I tried to catch up, and
I didn't know there's 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's been going.
Didn't know.
It gets to the point, and this is something I've kind of noticed in other things, that it's instead of, it is flushing out the world that around it that is interesting, and it's getting into that, which is really good. But at the same time, it does a bunch of weird stuff of like, the Norse lore it exists too. It's off on its own thing by itself. But we go talk to Odin. He's a cool guy. Yep. Loki exists, and he looks fucking stupid, but he's there. And then you're like, well, okay, I kind of liked the angel, devil, fallen angel thing. That was cool, but whatever. And then they're like, oh, there are these humans that have sacred gears too, but they're real pissed off that they have sacred gears, so they're mad and they're fighting everyone. And it's like, well, okay, so there's another faction, but like, why didn't these people get picked up by someone? And it's a whole thing. And I don't say it has peaked, but I feel like they're like, oh shit, we got to add stuff, and it's not out of place. It just doesn't like feel like it goes there. Like they could have spent another season on, oh, these are the different demon houses and how the demon hierarchy works, which they do a little, but then Odin comes in and you're like, well, fuck, Odin's here now. I don't give a shit. And it just feels very, it kind of American Gods it, where it's like, hey, all that shit you thought about exists, but you're not going to learn about this particular one because there's just too much. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. And
another show that I never finished.
Yeah,
which I guess it doesn't matter. It got canceled, so
yeah,
no. It's never going to get done.
Yeah, so
but I think I didn't even finish the first season.
Yeah, I think we might have finished the first season. It's an interesting concept, but it's one of those that's just, it's kind of hard to binge. Like week to week's maybe
long,
easier,
because it's like 40, 50-minute episodes. It's like Game of Thrones. It's hard for me to binge Game of Thrones when I was catching up to it, because I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, you have to watch that almost week to week.
It's like I didn't start watching Game of Thrones, I think, until season 3. Season 3.
Yeah.
So I binged like the first 2 seasons, and I remember I was like, oh, God, it's like half the day is just watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
Thankfully it was good.
Yeah, could you imagine if that show was shitty?
If it was terrible, no, I just never watched it. I was like, whatever, I'll just
I guess that's a fair
read
point.
reviews.
That's like, I guess that is an interesting thing of like, there are some things that are better week to week than watching all in one go. And
In that case, it was what, month? No. What was monthly? I don't know what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, because Game of Thrones was definitely week to week.
That was week to week, because it'd be week to week for like 2-3 months.
Yeah, because there's like 8 to 10 episodes this season.
Yeah.
And there's some anime that I feel like are kind of that way too, that I don't think High School DxD is one of them. I think it's just hard to binge because it's not hard to binge a season because it's only like 12 episodes and they're like 20 minutes, so it's like whatever. But there are like, because I'm trying to think of what actually would benefit, and I think Spy Family is a good one for this because there's a lot of that sameness in the same like time of life, slice of life, that if you tried to binge it, you could, but you know, if it was like 50 episodes, by the time you're 30 episodes in, you're like, okay, they're going back on this thing. But week to week, you're like, oh, cool, what new shit's gonna happen? Like, what weird shit is... And you have enough disparity between what, like, Lloyd and Anya and Yor do that, you know, if you spend a couple episodes with just Anya at school, you're like, okay, yeah, this is pretty interesting. But if you kind of binge it, it's harder to do, I would say, but I think it's not impossible. I mean, fuck, if people are like, if I'm binging Naruto and like knocking out 15 to 20 episodes a week, I think
most standard like picked up anime is 12 episodes. Like, this is the most standard form.
Yeah,
it's 12 episode series, you know, for one season. Unless it's something that's been along forever.
Yeah. I think that's probably like, I think Gundam gets that in a way that it would have benefited from being able to see it week to week because it's usually like 49 to 50 episodes. And some of the newer stuff like 00 and IBO,
24.
Yeah, they'll do 24 and then they'll separate it into 2 seasons. Or they'll do 50 episodes but split into 2 24 episode seasons. But even that, like, it's kind of hard to get through. Like, Zeta is probably one of the better in terms of a narrative of any of the Gundams. But it took me like 3 tries to get all the way through Zeta because I would get like 30 episodes in, be like, I'm really fucking tired of watching this.
Burnt out, yeah.
Yeah, because it's fucking sad. It's just real, because I mean, that's like, UC Gundam is that way most of the time of like, oh yeah, people are dying left and right, just get used to it. You may not know who they are, but if that person dead, they're dead and they're sad, so you're like, oh great, I'm sad. But you know, then I pick back up, so I have to go back a couple episodes and then make another 20 episodes. You're like, I'm almost there, but you're like, oh my god, like I'm just so like it took me a while, but I can see what people are saying with that. Like, there's a ton of Gundam that I think is not very bingeable, but week to week would have been really good because it's like, these things happen, you get it in a small dose, and it's usually episode to episode interesting enough. You're like, yeah, I'll come back for that. But we don't get that in streaming anymore most of the time. Like, yeah, I mean, Gundam, yeah, but not most. Gundam, I don't think is big enough here yet, even still with its rise in popularity, for people to be like, I'll watch it week to week. Because Mecha barely gets week to week shit anyway in terms of like people talking about it. The only reason I think people talked about 86 is because we haven't had a good mecha anime in so long that everyone's like, 86 is so good, and it's like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, I don't want to be that guy. It's Gundam Unicorn. It's really pretty. It's got a good soundtrack.
Bangers. Yeah,
it's a Hiroyuki Sawano fucking soundtrack. So yeah, it's good, but like that's, I feel bad for saying this, and like I'm still working on a video essay to try to explain this more eloquently, but 86 isn't mid, but it's like just above mid. Right. They checked the boxes. It's a AAA game.
it feels the Triple H. It feels the itch.
Yeah, it's there.
Scratches
It's
the itch.
a good enough story, and I don't want to say it's a bad story, but it's not like, it's not Gurren Lagann. It's not like,
Oh man, it's still Lion Barrels of Iron.
yeah, I even fucking Line Barrels of Iron. It's a fucking niche ass pull, but it's the vibe, right? There's not a lot going on, and that's when you look at things that we remember today from like Mecha from the 90s, or just shit from the 90s in general. You have Cowboy Bebop, you have Trigun. They have very interesting, unique individual personalities where the studios weren't as focused on, we need to make this the crispest looking thing ever. It's more of, oh, hey, we have a story we want to tell with this very specific frame in mind. And then you go to like things like Gurren Lagann's the same way. There are a shitload of frames in Gurren Lagann that look fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But Gurren Lagann has a very unique art style and a very unique soundtrack and a very unique personalization of all of the things in it, in the world, that 86 doesn't really have. It's not bad, but they were just like, we need it super high fidelity. It's got some unique mechanical design, but the animation in it's really nothing to write home about. It's clean, but that's it. Hiroyuki Sawano has been in so much shit lately that I can't tell this soundtrack from most of Attack on Titan or Gundam Unicorn soundtracks, because they're doing like, Sawano's doing like 2 or 3 shows a season, it feels like, when it's probably just I don't have a perception of time and it's been 1 or 2 shows a year for like the last 5 or 6 years. But it just adds up, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can't pick any individual track out. But yeah, I mean, it's the and I feel like Demon Slayer is that way minus the animation. The attack animation's great. That's the unique thing, but it doesn't take that holistic vibe, I feel, and try to push that extra level. One thing I think in the most fucking boring ass way possible that does this really well, and this is the last thing I've been kind of watching regularly, the new kind of retelling, if you will, of Legends of the Galactic Heroes. I can understand why no one fucking talks about this show, because it's a space opera that went for a long, like, it's, I would say it's like a long time comparative to fucking Naruto, but like 150 or 200 episodes from the 70s. So of course, like, I'm not gonna go back and rewatch that thing. Like, it was hard enough for me to go back and watch OG Gundam, and Gundam is now part of my personality.
Well, they did the 3 movies for OG Gundam for the 70s. So they basically compiled the original series into 3 different movies, and you can just watch that instead of watching, I think it was like 50 episodes.
40. Fuck, yeah. This is terrible. I don't remember. It got canceled early. I don't remember if it was 41 or 48 episodes. But yeah,
How crazy is it that Gundam got canceled because it wasn't popular?
Yeah, until those fucking movie compilations came out. Which, this is like an interesting like history of Gundam thing that no one gives a shit about. But it wasn't 100% that the story was what got people. The compilation movies made it way easier to get through because there's a bunch of stupid shit in the original Gundam. But it was because Bandai had stepped in as the sponsor to get those movie compilations done to sell model kits. And people
it's all about merchandising.
Yeah, that's literally all it was, because the original series was the last of a 3-part deal with Clover, which was a toy manufacturer at the time. And if you can Google them, the original Clover Gundam toys look fucking dumb. I mean, of course, it's the 70s, they're die-cast, they're big blocky, but there's a lot of stuff you can tell Clover wanted in the animation that didn't get put in there because Tomino's like, that's fucking stupid. Like, I've given you this weird transforming gimmick that makes 0 fucking sense and put bright colors in it. You got enough, all right, fam. Like,
that's enough for a toy.
Yeah, so Bandai comes in and they're like, we like what you're doing here. We're going to make some model kits and toys, and it takes off. Zeta comes out, fucking blows it out in terms of ratings for that era. Double Zeta comes out, doesn't quite live up, but very similar. I think in ratings, averages is actually a little higher than Zeta. Then Char's Counterattack in the late 80s. Then the 90s just fucking, like, takes Gundam out the backyard and breaks its fucking legs, because there's a huge dip. Like, Victory Gundam comes out, bombs in the ratings. It's fucking super depressing. It's edited fucking terribly. F91 comes out. It's a fucking mess of a movie that was supposed to be a series, but they didn't really know what they were doing up until... I think they had like a year to make that. Like, Bandai, I think, had come to Sunrise and like, hey, we want something. And they're like, cool, we'll put something together. But no one had specified what it was. They're like, cool, we have a story. And they're like, okay, cool, you have a movie. You have a 90-minute movie. And they're like, we were going to do this in 12 episodes. Or 24 episodes, I can't remember. So they had like, I think, yeah, it was supposed to be 24 or 50 episodes, but they only had like the first 8 to 12 kind of vaguely planned out. So Tomino had to come in and cut it up and kind of try to get it to work, which is why there's a bunch of weird cuts in that movie, and that's why. Then you have the weird experiments with Wing and G Gundam and X and Turn A. And then Seed comes out in the 2000s like, hey, we revamped everything. People are back into Gundam again. We have these fucking hot boys. Look at them. Boy bands are back. Let's go. And that, you know, as much as people want to clown on Wing and Seed, they both did a huge amount in terms of getting the female populace into Gundam, because the pretty boys, and they kind of cater more to them in terms of narratives.
Those bandos. Pick your favorite.
Yeah, you
each have a red flag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hero just wants to kill himself.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, if you look at him and you're like, I can fix him. Good luck. You fucking try.
I already tried.
Yeah, I mean, Relina tries, and the next manga doesn't work out well for her. I mean, she doesn't die or anything, but like Hero just fucking gets brain wiped, so it doesn't matter.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
For a 30-year-old anime.
Yeah, fuck everyone. If you haven't watched Gundam Wing, I'm not spoiling shit for you. Gundam Wing doesn't end that good. Just deal with it. And so many fucking people haven't watched F91 and Victory Gundam. No one gives a shit. I haven't even finished fucking Victory.
The reason why everyone picks up Wing is because it was on Toonami.
Yeah, like if you're in the West, it is also a weird disparity.
It was like the first Gundam on TV in the West.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. It is a weird disparity, though, of what was popular in Japan and what's popular here don't match up. Like,
no, never.
Yeah, Seed and Seed Destiny, super fucking popular in Japan. And people like them here, but there's a lot of hate for both of them here for some reason. That Japan's like, no, we fucking love Shin Asuka. Get the fuck out. And everyone in the West is like, he's a psychopath. And everyone kind of looks over the fact like, yeah, that's the fucking point, bro. Like, Kira's so fucking numbed out by the end of Seed that you're like, oh yeah, that's a normal person. And then Shin's like, I'm going into psychotic rage. It's like, yeah, he's in a fucking war. Like, this is what happens in war, bro. Like, people lose it. And that's a whole nother thing for like, if anyone out there gives a shit about Gundam, I also do stuff on Gunpla Network. You can listen to me rant over there. But yeah, like, to circle back to Legends of the Galactic Heroes, it does that in the most fucking, like, Game of Thrones, slow-moving, boring, but fucking super interesting way of, yeah, we have this space fortress, and it's impregnable, and you know, we gotta have meetings about how we get into this, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, we'll try this, then it doesn't work, and then some other guy's like, hey, what if we just sent these people in? They're like, okay, yeah, let's do it, and that's a season. You know, it's not a season. That's like a small arc, but that's the point. Is it's a lot more about the space opera interpolitical situations. That's like, if you're a Gundam fan, you'll probably like. But you know, if you're like out there in Shonen and Isekai land, like, yeah, fucking get a master or whatever. You know, like, what the fuck is this show and who gives a shit about it? But yeah, it's good. That's all I've been watching, though, is Naruto, Spy Family, Legends of the Galactic Heroes. And I have caught up on Demon Slayer in terms of the dub. I'll say that. So yeah, that's all I've been watching. I will say that the new Gundam thing that's going to come out later this year, I'm very interested in. And
Witch from Mars?
Yeah, the Witch from Mercury, yeah.
Witch from Mercury,
yeah.
One of the M's.
Yeah, it was one of those M planets. A lot of people, like, when it first got announced, there's a bunch of the shit takes of like, this is gonna be fucking stupid. Because that's the Gundam fandom. Anytime new things come out, everyone's like, get fucked.
Yeah. It was like the first thing when I saw the announcement. They're like, "Oh, the Gundam looks dumb."
Yeah,
because it has curves, or it's like curvy. It's not just straight jagged lines or something like that.
Yeah,
it has a bend somewhere.
Yeah, and it's like every time this happens, like it happened with Iron Blooded Orphans too when it came out. I can remember people like because like the first promo images didn't actually show the Gundam Barbados. It was like this weird kind of silhouette, and it's really sharp and pointy. So everyone's like, "Oh, this is gonna be fucking sick." And then it starts to get shown, and everyone's like, "Why is the waist so small?" And it's like, "Yeah, why is the waist so small? But fuck off, it's good." And then like,
it's a good show.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, the Gundam is this
war children,
weird, interesting niche of just everyone fucking hating on everyone else. I mean, most people obviously don't, but like, it's loud enough that there were groups at some point. I don't remember what it was. There's someone that was like fighting the good fight for Iron Blooded Orphans, I guess, to such an extent that, I mean, no one was fighting him on it, but he was still doing it. To where I saw memes of this fucking dude's name in other places that weren't Gundam related. And I'm like, how the fuck did we get here? Like, why have I seen this name? And then I look back and it's a fucking meme from there. I'm like, what? How? Why do we live in this world? What is happening here? Reset the simulation, please.
I think the only Gundams that should be shamed are from G Gundam.
Yeah, I mean,
those are the only ones that genuinely should be shamed.
Yeah, the not so subtle racism of G Gundam should probably be. We might want to take that one out in the back, and which is sad because like outside of that, G Gundam is actually pretty fun.
It's good, but
also like you get to the Zulu Gundam and you're like,
if you're just talking about like the design of the Gundam, like there's a lot in there that's just. It's not great.
No, there's a bunch of like, there's so much dumb shit in Gundam I could go on forever, but like, it's just Gundam. I love Gundam, but Jesus Christ. So sometimes Gundam's decisions are like, we went here. This is where we are. Why are we here? What in the Sam hell are we doing here?
Water break.
Yeah, I had to chug some water. I had to get the remnants of my cider out of my mouth. I got to the bottom of it, so I'm like, oh, okay, there's a lot down there.
It's like, that didn't taste good. It's like the last sip of beer is not the best.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, that was not fun.
It's warm and room temp.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of what we've been watching. We were thinking about it. We'll kind of see how this goes as time goes on. Doing a little segment where we look at our mouse scores and try to pick one maybe controversial one and defend it. And eventually we'll have maybe user submissions for that because I think there's a lot of people out there with shit takes they're ready to defend. I mean, we just look at Twitter and that's pretty much what Twitter is.
That is true. That is true.
So I had to pull my mail up because I was looking while you were talking about Dragon Ball. I was like, what the fuck on here did I put that's like, that's a risky one. Why did I do that? So I'm looking through here because I know I've got something dumb, and it's probably going to be High School DxD, I'm not going to lie. What is a good... I'm trying to look at good and bad. What have I don't know that anyone's going to fight.
Did you give anything less than a 4?
I think the lowest I gave was a 5. Let me check. Yeah, the 5s I have are... oh, no, I take that back. I have a 4. Mobile Suit Gundam Twilight Axis, which is a weird OVA, so that kind of, like, whatever.
It's not a series.
Yeah, that almost doesn't count. I kind of feel bad about doing that, but whatever. It's one of the few things Gundam fans universally agree on that it's not good. So the second season of Seraph of the End got a 5. I feel like that's pretty justified. That was not maybe a 6, but I'm solid at a 5. I think that's probably It's much worse, and I think that might be where they departed from the manga if they did. I can't remember, but it does some weird shit towards the end and sets it up for a sequel that never comes because everyone's like, this isn't good. Black Butler Season 2. I don't think that's controversial.
You gave that one a 5?
Yeah, give it a 5.
Yeah. Halloween's Transy was just a piece of shit.
Yeah,
I just didn't like anything that he was in. Yeah, no, season 1. Season 1 was so good. And I think I went what month is it? Oh yeah, I know where it is. Anyway, last year, I think it was last year, early this year, I was gonna go back and read Black Butler. Because a lot of people told me, they're like, I was like, oh, like I like Black Butler. And they're like, oh, have you read it? I was like, no. And they're like, well, the manga's really good. I was like, all right, well, I got time to read something, go back and read it. And I was reading it and I was like, oh, I just want to watch it now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the concern.
I don't want to watch season 2.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's like you get into a manga and you're like, oh, cool, I'll watch the anime alongside it. And then it like either stops, gets to a shitty point, or you burn yourself out because it's too much of the same shit.
I think they told me that the worst parts of season 2 weren't even in the manga.
Yeah, I think most of like the Alois Transy stuff actually isn't in the manga. That's just because they got ahead of the manga and it was so popular. They're like, fuck.
Yeah. So it was
get
like
it
for
out,
filler.
get it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say season 2, 5. That's justifiable.
Yeah, I feel like that one's not too out there. I mean, I'm sure there's probably people who will fight me on that if I went to Twitter and it's like, hey, Black Butler season 2 is fucking awful.
It's not even mid.
0 out of 10. Fuck off. People would fight me on it. Cross Ang, which I don't think anyone's gonna ever watch or give a shit about.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, it has some interesting mechanical design, but it's pretty fucking terrible otherwise. That got a 5. Trying to think of what else have I given. I think that's the only other thing I've given a 5. Yeah. I think my take on 86 being mid would probably be the one I would have to defend because people would be like, "What the fuck? It's the best mecha anime of the year, bro." Or I've talked to people on like Gunpla Network, and I can understand why. And just I've seen on Twitter say that it's their anime of the year, which is fine. I'm not gonna shit on someone for saying that, but at the same time, I'm like, did you watch other stuff? Like, best mecha anime I could probably see. That one's a pretty reasonable argument. Best anime of the year is a little bit of a stretch, but oddly enough, I gave pretty much all of High School DxD that I've watched a 6, and I kind of feel bad about that.
6?
Yeah, all of High School DxD is 6.
I have not logged into my MAL in a long time because the last thing was updated was I watched episode 100 of Black Clover. So that's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. Let's see what I want to sort it. I'm on my app, and I don't think it's working very good.
Yeah, Mal's a little jank sometimes, most of the time.
So the lowest thing I have is I think Double Zeta at a 5.
That's. I mean, I'm not. I'm not gonna fight you super hard on that one because, like, I can see why.
Gundam Frag. Yeah.
But
it's the movie. It's Mobile Suit Gundam Double Z Gundam Frag. I think it's OVA 2009.
I feel really stupid if I have to look this up and see.
OVA.
Oh, okay. It's a 4-minute short that came with the DVD. Okay, so I was like, I
have no idea when I rated it.
I mean, being a short, that's kind of almost like the Twilight Axis thing of like, Yeah, this is almost barely counts because it's just like a fucking 4-minute thing. Oh, okay, I see. I kind of see some pictures and stuff of it.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one. If it was Double Zeta as a whole, I'd be a little bit more skeptical. But yeah, a
Well,
short.
see, I like Zeta.
Yeah. And there are people, and very rightfully so, that will say Double Zeta is not as good because it does take a different tone, and like by the time it really kind of starts to ramp up, you're halfway through the series almost.
See, I've got 2 other 5s. I have Digimon Frontier, which was
Is that one of the new movies that came out, or is that one of the sequels?
no,
series?
that was technically the 3rd season. It was when they had the eggs and they could like merge into their bodies. They didn't really digivolve. They like
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's like armor digivolve or something like that. Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's like 2002.
Yeah, I mean, there were cool designs that came out of that, but yeah, that's a very different take for that.
That one and How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. That one got a 5. I tried to watch some isekai trash. I watch anything that's an isekai.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's a 2nd season of that. I wonder what that's like. And it looks like a hentai in like the first 2 minutes. Like there's tentacles and stuff. And I was like, I'm not gonna watch this.
Like, I'm done.
I turned it off. But other than a 5, I have a few 6s, which includes Turn A.
Fair, I'll give you that one.
So Turn A Gundam, Mustache Gundam. So Turn A got a 6. I gave a Comic a Kill a 6. Now, when I watched that back in high school or whenever it was, or whenever it came out, when I watched it, I would have given it like an 8. Or
yeah.
But I rewatched it a couple years ago. I was like, it was not as good as I remember it.
Yeah, I have it at a 7, and as I was looking through here, I was like, some of these I probably should change, but yeah, I mean, Comic Kill, like, I don't know that anyone's gonna be like, that doesn't deserve a 6. It's like, have you watched it? Yeah, it deserves.
Yeah.
It's lucky if it's been a fucking long time, so like, maybe that's why it's
that's what I'd ask anybody is like, rewatch it. Like, it's got really bad pacing issues.
Yeah.
It was content that was a problem. It was like the production and the way the show was flowing and the story flow. I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
I gotta remember it like this.
Yeah, the last like bit there feels like it's way super rushed, and it's like, oh my god.
Super rushed. Yeah. What was another one?
I ranked Dr. Stone an 8, and I feel like people would be a little butthurt about that. That's
like
a little high. 7 or 8. I feel like 8's maybe a bit strong for it, but I haven't watched the 2nd season, so maybe I'll change my mind. Eureka 7 AO, I gave a 7. I think people would probably get on me about that one. It was not as good. I think if it wasn't Eureka 7 titled, it just had very visual, like similar visual cues, it would be fine. But it's Eureka 7, and by the time it gets to the end, it's fucking stupid because every Eureka 7 sequel's garbage almost. Which is why we're talking about it.
Yeah, I was honest. I gave Dragon Ball Super a 7.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff on here. I'm like, I'm not just
a stan. I don't just anything Dragon Ball is the best thing in the world.
Yeah, there's probably some Gundam in here that I've rated a little bit high, but whatever. I'll deal with that. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff in here that, like, I would probably fight people on. Not like, I obviously wouldn't get in a fist fight because I get my ass kicked very quickly. But, like, there are a lot of opinions in here that, like, I put the original Mobile Suit Gundam in an 8. Like, bro, why the fuck did I do that? Like, it's good, but it ain't an 8 good. Like, if I had to give that 6, I'd have felt pretty... To be fair, if I gave it a 6, that'd also be the same. I ranked G Gundam, so I might catch some shit for that one. There's this whole romanticization in Gundam of, like, the original series. That's like, oh my god, it's so good. It spawned everything. You have to take that into consideration. I'm like, no, I don't. I have to take shit into consideration.
I also gave OG Mobile Suit an 8.
Like, it's a good story, but at the same time, it's like, in terms of the series, it's got a bunch of weird shit. And, like, they're making the fucking Doan's Island movie, which is fucking ridiculous. That's a meme of an episode that Tomino was like, I fucking hate this. And they're like, so we'll make a movie out of it. It's like, I mean, I appreciate the meme. Like, I'll appreciate you going that far, and there's a bunch of cool visuals out of it. But there's, like, a bunch of stuff like that that's just weird, like, little side things that really don't do a whole lot. Like, Doan's Island's a little different because it has some kind of contextual importance. But there's a bunch of, like, the Makuve stuff that they do on Earth that's fucking dumb. And a bunch of mobile armors that are just villain of the week that end up getting jobbed pretty quickly. Which is also kind of dumb. Like, the idea that they needed to build up that Zeon's making mobile weapons or mobile armors that are way bigger than mobile suits is like, you didn't need to build that up. They could have just had it and it would have been a surprise. And it's like, that's fairly reasonable for this world. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, that's I 6 or 7. I think I probably could have given original Gundam and it would have been fine.
Going through my list, I gave 08th MS Team, Zeta, Char's Counterattack, Fighter, G Gundam, and OG Gundam all got an 8.
And see, this is the problem with number ratings is if you didn't pay attention to G Gundam's really good. It's a lot of fun. But at the same time, like, when you pay attention, you're like, oh.
It's made in the 70s.
G Gundam was made in the 90s.
Oh, not G Gundam. Sorry, I was thinking about OG Gundam.
Oh, OG, yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff, and it's hard to walk the minefield of Gundam, because there's always a fan of something that'll be like, fuck you, this is great.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, as a Gundam Age fan that is probably, like, the most forgotten and or shit on of the Gundam series, I can come out and say, like, any Gundam is good. Like,
right.
Gundam,
it's got something that someone would like.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I think, like, a lot of people kind of have an equivalent for, like at this point, I know I will probably never watch all of One Piece because I've never started, and I'm not going to start 1,000 episodes late. And people kind of have the same assumption of Gundam is like there's just too much of it. It's like, yeah,
you don't have to have too much. You can just watch one series and you're good.
Yeah, and most people don't understand that all of it's disjointed for the most part. Like, there's stuff in the UC that it helps to have watched original Gundam and Zeta and Double Zeta and stuff, but you don't have to watch it. Like, you can watch Unicorn Gundam without any of that, and it's still good. You miss things, but yeah, it's still enjoyable. Like, it's still an interesting story in and of itself, but it's just kind of like, you know, pick and choose what you want. Let me see. I gave original Ava a 9. That was maybe a little risky.
I looked at it. It's an 8 on mine.
I might want to bump that one down a little bit.
I scrolled through. I gave Naruto, or OG Naruto. I gave Naruto, Ava, and Trigun an 8.
That's a weird mix of things.
They're also in my 8s.
I gave Skate the Infinite an 8, and I think there's probably some people that were like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, I'm not mad, I'm just confused. Yeah, fuck off, I like Skate the Infinite. You know, I mean, there's... I feel like the low ratings aren't the ones we'll have to justify most of the time.
I don't know
high
ones.
I don't think I have.
I think
any
Bebop's
10s.
in a 10 for me.
I gave Tokyo Revengers a 9. I feel like that's maybe a...
Did you really?
Yeah,
we haven't finished it.
I'm still going, but I'm caught up with it.
Do you have a 10?
No, I think the highest I have is 9. I've got Baccano's at a 9. Code Geass R1 and R2 are 9. Bebop's a 9. R2 I might bump down, but I think the ending gives it a justification for a 9. Let me see.
I have Yu Yu Hakusho at a 9.
Okay. I think the only other 9 I have is Tokyo Revengers. Oh, I gave Oatham Team a 9. OG Ava a 9, and then Steins Gate got a 9, and Tokyo Revengers got a 9.
First season of Log Horizon got a 9.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Log Horizon, but I was always under the impression that the first season was the bad one.
No, because they just now made a second season, didn't they?
Yeah,
it just came out.
That was the vibe I had got. It took so long that I was like,
it was
"Oh,
really
they canceled
good."
it.
They came out. They came out and made the second one, and people were like, "Okay,
That makes
it's not as good."
Okay.
I might have to go back and rewatch it, but so I gave Overlord a 9.
Okay.
Was it Clannad After Story? I gave it a 9. Gonkutsuo, I gave it a 9. That one is really good. It's it was kind of like, I don't remember where I saw it. Someone was talking about it, and it's kind of like a weird Count of Monte Cristo kind of thing.
Yeah. I think I've got that on a watch list somewhere.
It's that if it'll ever load. It won't load.
Yeah, I could pick up enough
Gonkutsuo.
from that picture that yeah.
Really, like, art style, holy crap. It's just like everything has its own pattern. I don't know, it's really interesting. I really liked it. But yeah. Like, I gave Bebop a 10, but I think I rated that a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are justifications for giving things 10s. It's just like, it's hard to be like, oh, this is like the best of the best, and
Or like, it's a 10, it's perfect. It's like everything has its problems.
yeah. I think that there's this like, it's the peak, as I kind of get the vibe, and
Right.
I don't know. I think it's just because I think too much about it, and I'm like, what if something else comes out? Then it's going to change the ratings. So it's not a 10, which I think is probably what happened. Is why some of these things are 9s now. Is at some point in my life I've had Code Geass at 10s. I'm almost positive.
I mean, Geass, really fucking good.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. Tokyo Revengers. I don't honestly though. I really like Tokyo Revengers, so I don't know. And now that I've got a wardrobe change and a fresh cider, let us know your bad takes on Mal. Like, if you've got an Annie list or a Mal, and you've got the real controversial pick, whether it's a good or a bad rating, send it to us on Twitter. We are Weeb Trash Pod on Twitter. So just hit us up there, tag us, do whatever. I use Twitter so I mean, I use it a lot, but I don't actually do shit on Twitter. I just look at stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm on it, like, looking at one specific thing like every other day, because I'll get a notification and it'll be something about Twitter related, and I'll just open it and look, and then I'll scroll, and then I'll close it and then never open it again. Yeah,
like, I'm not gonna lie, I've been on Twitter more in the last like 2 months than I've ever been, just because I've been like looking at all of the Ukraine stuff.
Oh yeah.
And that's just been like the only reason I'm on Twitter anymore. So yeah, I will be checking Twitter probably regularly. So if you just hit us up at Weeb Trash Pod, I will, I guess, categorize that or try to remember it. And we'll look at it next week, because we'll try to do this weekly. Schedules may change, but tentatively we'll stick to weekly. So send that in. Give us your reasoning. Don't just send us a picture and be like, hey, you fucking Steins Gate's a 0. Like, you tell us why. Don't just be like, also don't send in like non-controversial, like if you're like Attack on Titan's a fucking 10 out of 10, get the fuck out. Like, okay.
You know it's good.
Great, Normie. Congratulations. Like, if you got Cat Planet Cuties in an 8, send that shit to me. I want to know, like, how? What are you thinking? Like, no. What? Like, I need explanation. So, yeah. Controversial high or low picks, send a reasoning. If it's like a review you have on Mal, do that. That's fine. Or if you just want to type it out on Twitter, whatever. We'll also put this up on YouTube, so you can put it in comments there in the community tab. We'll put a question out. So be sure to follow us on both of those. Excuse me. Cider's getting to me, I guess. We will also be up on Spotify at the very least, possibly other platforms, but tentatively you'll be watching or hearing this on Spotify or YouTube. And we'll try to, like I said, do it weekly. If for any reason we're unable to do it weekly, I'll try to let you know on the Twitter. But yeah, hot takes. Give them. Send that shit. We are hungry for it. We will try to have our own for next week as well. So you can kind of get on us in the comments, I guess. But yeah, so it's kind of where we're at now. We, like I said, this is episode 0, so episode 1 and onward we'll try to be. I'm gonna honest.
Try to have an upload date, like new episode date. We'll try and figure out when.
Yeah.
When it'll go up.
Yeah, we may try.
Currently.
And like I said, this is episode 0, so we're talking a lot of bad shit here on stuff we would probably maybe not like, stuff like that. But yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe so I'm gonna try to cut clips up and stuff of kind of isolated conversations that would have an interesting topical thing going on. So maybe we'll kind of release one of those, like if we record these on the weekend. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll try to have a clip each day, and then Friday, the full upload. Maybe it goes up early on Spotify, so you are incentivized to look there. I don't know. I mean, I guess we will have kind of made some kind of action, at least maybe not a final decision on this by the time you're watching or listening. But let us know. Find us over on Twitter. Find us over on YouTube. Let us know what you guys would prefer. If you want the full podcast first and then clips, or clips then podcast. Whatever. I don't think it's really going to matter in terms of how we handle editing and recording. So whatever you guys prefer is really no skin off our back. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're thinking. So be sure to check us there. Subscribe, like, follow, whatever your platform is. We're only on Twitter and YouTube and I guess Spotify at that point. But if you guys want to see us on other things, I guess we can do that. But yeah.
Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Do you not like us? Tell us that.
Yeah, if you hate my haircut that I got today, be like, you look like a fucking idiot, bro.
Fresh cut.
Yeah, if you're like, that cut is not fresh, I'll be like, okay, fair point. If my beard's patchy, you're right. I'm not going to fight you on that one. Congratulations. You have eyes. Yeah. If you think Tokyo Revengers is not a 9, you're probably right, but fight me. I will die on this. So this is... Yeah, I'm probably going to go back and change my High School DxD scores now just to spite everyone. Get ready for High School DxD, 10 out of 10.
Yep. Get a hold of us. Tell us why Girls Bravo is a 10.
Hell yeah. I've never watched Girls Bravo, but yeah.
I think that's the one where like this dude's bathtub is a portal to this world where it's only women or something like that. I don't know.
Sounds like 10 out of 10 material to me.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I think it was Girls Bravo.
What great lore. Magical bathtub teleportation.
Magical teleporting bathtub.
Greatest lore ever. Get out of the way, Legends of the Galactic Heroes. But yeah, let us know where we already told you where you can find us. Just let us know what you think, and we will do our best to accommodate as possible. I've been Cody.
This is Dean.
And we'll talk to you later.